Thank you very much, Sophie, for setting the tone of BAQ 2010 by expounding on the theme, which is air quality in a changing climate. Now, to give the welcome remarks, I would like to call on the chair of CAI-Asia Center's Board of Trustees, Robert O'Keefe. He's also Vice President of the Health Effects Institute in the U.S. Bob?
Thanks for that kind introduction. Building on Sophie's theme, and it's somewhat ironic, I need to hardly remind this audience that there are many sources of air pollution in Asia today. Thousands of difficult-to-regulate sources, including area sources, uncontrolled brick kilns with low stacks, open burning, smelters, and other similar sources, many of which unleash heavy metals and toxics as well as PM and gases. Slide. It's often, back one, please. Yeah. It's often, as Sophie noted, it's often the neglected indoor environment, which according to the World Health Organization's global burden of disease, to put a number on it, is actually responsible for twice the mortality burden of outdoor air pollution, particularly among women and children, as you'd heard. Interestingly, there's an increasing number of vehicles in the already crowded and ever-expanding urban areas. To put some data on what seems obvious, these new maps are being released here today for the first time. They show population proximity to traffic-related air pollution and illustrate that vehicles can be a pervasive source of exposure, with 55% of the Delhi population, which you see on this slide, and some 77% of the Beijing population exposed to pollutants from vehicles. This is new data, and it's just released, so these reports will be available. And finally, as those of you living in the area know all too well, agricultural burning and other natural and man-made emissions only last month, yes, closed hundreds of schools and caused respiratory and other health impacts, requiring the distribution of breathing masks right here in Southeast Asia. Those are a few of the serious problems that draw us here, but that also provide us all with a sense of purpose. The good news, I think, for this meeting is that a large part of the solution lies within this very room. Look around you and be inspired. To your left and your right, you'll find some of the leading experts in the world, from health science to emissions control to air quality monitoring, infrastructure financiers, government regulators, stewardship-focused industry, urban planners, environmental NGOs, and many others, all sharing a common goal: clean air for Asia. They, in turn, are a bridge to many solutions: advanced and often affordable technology, clean fuels, low-exposure stoves for the indoor environment, traps and scrubbers, and many more innovative solutions. As Sophie noted, even claiming the streets for that most basic form of transportation, walking. That takes us to CAI-Asia. The strength of CAI-Asia is as a catalyst for action. First, as a reservoir of knowledge on emission sources, health impacts, and best practices, exemplified through programs like Knowledge Air and the new Clean Air Scorecard being recently updated. Secondly, as a laboratory to test new ideas, recently piloting solutions on green freight in China. And finally, and perhaps fundamentally, as a builder of country networks across Asia and a convener of the broad range of Asian and other international stakeholders to give and receive knowledge, to build new relationships and nurture a sense of optimism that across Asia, air pollution can and will be eliminated. It will be you and others like you across Asia who, whether through analysis, testimony, writing, speaking, cajoling, engineering, or through sheer force of will, ultimately ensure that blue skies are the norm rather than the exception. On behalf of the CAI-Asia Board, welcome to BAQ 2010. As I introduce our next speaker, I want to mention that in reviewing the many options for where to hold BAQ last year, it was decided to hold the meeting in Singapore, in part because it's a stellar example to all of us of that economic development and clean environment can coexist happily and peacefully. With efficient public transit, strong and strengthening diesel standards, and a commitment to clean air, Singapore is a city of which to be proud. It's my pleasure now to invite a person responsible for much of this environmental prosperity, our guest of honor, Dr. Yaqub Ibrahim, Minister of the Environment and Water Resources. Welcome.